All right, so thank you very much, Dylan, for this opportunity to present to you for Google Apps for Meeting. Well, I think I have killed something. What have I done? I've killed the wrong thing. Here we go. Look, there we go. That's better. Now you should be able, everybody should be able to see my slide. Obviously, you need to spend more time using GoToWebinar. Thank you very much, Dylan and the Google Guru. Today we're going to go through becoming a more efficient admin with smart task scheduling. And as mentioned in the video, which I'm very proud of to get that award and be sort of named the first Google Apps Guru. I'm Colin McCarthy. I am the Associate Director of IT for Essence. I work in the New York office here, originally started in our London office, and I'm responsible for IT in New York, Seattle, and San Francisco. And a lot of our, globally, I'm responsible for a lot of our cloud and software as a service systems. So a bit about me. Started doing IT in 1997, doing telephone support for CompuServe, reinstalling the TCP/IP stack of Windows 98 over and over again. Was an early adopter, I feel, to the cloud. I used to use Google Docs when it was still called Writely. Been using Google Apps since 2009. Was a Google Apps super admin when I first joined Essence in 2010. And since December of 2004, Chrome OS has been my OS of choice. I've been using a Chromebox daily, and I find that with Secure Shell and Chrome RDP, I can do about 97% of my job in Chrome OS. And then earlier on this year, I became a Google Apps Certified Administrator, but I was probably an unofficial certified Google Apps fanboy long before then. As you've probably noticed, I'm not using Chrome OS today because while it is a great OS, it still has some limitations, such as using GoToWebinar, and that's just one of its limitations. But I know that it will get there, and I have a lot of faith in it. So what are we going to cover today? This is a quick sort of agenda, so you know what to expect, and we should be done in about 25 minutes. Things that I won't be covering, Zendesk, Freshdesk, Zoho, any other online ticketing or incident reporting system, as that is a completely different subject to sort of task management or project management, and a lot of that is sort of firefighting and responding to issues. It's not necessarily proactively planning and managing our day, which is what we're going to try and focus on today. So why should you listen to this presentation? Well, we often forget about the basics, and researching for this session, I reminded myself about how I should be operating and how I should become more efficient and stay more efficient. But there is no easy answer, as there's no one-size-fits-all model for task management. There are many different size organizations. There's the one-man super admin company that may be a small business, might be the business owner that's the super admin. It might be a contractor who has multiple companies that he's supporting, and he is the one-man super admin. You could have a one-manager small IT team. You can have a multi-location, multi-manager IT team, very much like I operate here with my colleagues in London and San Francisco. And then, of course, there's the multi-location, multi-manager, admin role, tiered IT support structure that you're probably going to find in very large corporations, where you'll have a first line, a second line support. You might have dedicated admin roles for people who do software patching, security, database management, backup reporting, and the multi-manager function may be more of a CIO, CTO level. So task management, project management can vary greatly, but what we're going to try and do is going through and making sure that we're the ones that are running IT and not letting IT run us. So what we need to do first is I like to categorize our work, and we need to filter out the real issues. So not all issues can be categorized into specific priorities, as just like the type of companies that I mentioned before, there's not going to be a specific category for every user or every situation. But the following does stand as a good guide, especially if you're under-resourced. I like to categorize issues or problems that people have or tasks that I have to do is many users can't do anything, which would be like a priority 1. And for example, that would be multiple users can't log on or can't access the internet. Next, priority 2, many users can't do something, which could be multiple users can't access one server, site, or a service. Going lower down, we've got priority 3, where one user can't do anything, which might be they can't log on or they can't access the internet. And then lastly, but by no means least, there's priority 4, which would be one user can't do something. Maybe they can't access one specific server, site, or service. And there's that old saying goes, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And while the one user who can't log on, that to him is going to be a priority 1 issue. If you do have multiple users who have a problem, that's going to be a priority 1 and you have to manage it. And to correctly identify and prioritize your time, you do need to ensure that you get accurate information from your end users about the actual problems and scope of the issue. You can't expect end users to naturally give you a detailed military-style SITREP or situation report, as you will need to probe them and question them to get the right information from them. Here's a little story from my past. Back in the day when I was doing IT support for a secondary school, like a high school in the UK, on a particularly busy day where we had a couple of hardware failures and a couple of classrooms couldn't get connected to the network, and it was incredibly busy, problems everywhere. We got a message that one of the secretaries couldn't print. And we thought, well, that's not too much of a problem. She can't print her one document. There's loads of other people that still can print. I'm sure this document isn't very important, not a priority 1 problem. So we fixed all of the other problems in the school, and then at the very end of the day, we had time and we went down to see her and find out about this document that she couldn't print. It was then that we discovered that her real problem was that she couldn't remember her password to log in. But to her, she identified the problem as that she couldn't print. So, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that sort of story and have got experiences with end users like that. So that's a very good way of prioritizing and categorizing your day, to making sure you get accurate information and probing your end users and actually asking them what they're trying to do, what their issue is, and ask them some detailed questions. So along with categorizing IT issues, I find this chart a very useful reference to remind myself what's important and urgent and what's important and not urgent. And this is what I said. This is what when I said that I have relearned myself and reminded myself what I need to do, going through the process of creating this presentation and researching this session. I rediscovered this chart. And this chart comes from Stephen Covey, who is an American educator, author, businessman, a keynote speaker. This is from his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I find that this diagram that he produced is really good at categorizing key elements or factors in your day. And this can be, just used for your work environment. You can also use this for your personal life as well. So the important parts, of course, is the important and urgent. And this is the do now. This is what you have to manage, what we manage as a day-to-day as a system administrator, whether you're the CTO of a large company or you're an entry-level first, this is your first job, you're doing IT support. This is what you're going to be spending most of your time doing. And this would be something that would stop a lot of people from working, a network security issue, or a client meeting happening, something that's got a really important deadline. The next part is the important but not urgent. And this is the plan or to-do part. And this is where I think we need to focus and spend most of our time, because the time you spent here will alleviate a lot of the problems that you're probably going to be experiencing in the do now, the emergencies. And we're going to go through some of the tools that we use to help plan and prioritize some of these issues. Next, we've got the not important and urgent. So they're not important to us as IT professionals, but they might be urgent to the people that they're having. And these can be non-role related tasks. And it can be quite difficult to balance with being a helpful person and part of a team. And many IT people, based with what we do doing IT support, being helpful is very much in our nature. And I've learned this, that even though I like to help people and I can do quite a few things, just because I can do something doesn't mean that I should. I remember in a previous office the sink had broke, so I went to the hardware store and I bought a new U-bend and I installed the U-bend. Wasn't my job. I shouldn't really have dealt with it, but it's a fine balance that you have to make, and it's going to be dependent on every office that you're in and every company. But there is a habit of people absorbing too much stuff, and IT people, in my experience, can be very, very helpful. It's one of the things you need to learn to try and progress, so you can focus your time on actually solving the problems that you're paid to do. And I often, in a very light-hearted way, if I'm asked to do something or get involved that's going to take my time away from what I'm being paid to do, I reply with #NotMyJob. Yeah, and I direct the person's request to the right person who should be taking ownership for that, and try not to get involved. Very delicate one, but a lot of time will be wasted. And then lastly, where we all end up being is the not important and not urgent. This is the procrastination zone. This is where we find time, or we waste time checking Facebook posts, getting involved in gossip, searching for that perfect cat gift to send to an email. So if we concentrate on number 2, the planning and doing, I think we can really improve our environment, our careers, our jobs, and also alleviate a lot of the issues which are the firefighting and the ticket generating ones. Another good habit to get into, and something that I was reminded on again by doing this presentation, is eating the frog. What is eating the frog? Mark Twain, the famous author that I'm sure everybody has heard of, famously said that if the first thing you do in the morning is eat a live frog, then you could go through the rest of the day knowing the worst is behind you. Your frog is your worst task. You should do it first thing in the morning. If there's something you have been procrastinating about, upgrading firmware on a switch, reconfiguring an access point, reading a technical document, reading a new proposal, you've been putting it off and off, do that first thing in the morning. Make that your frog, and the rest of your day will be a lot better. And then, of course, getting stuff done and crossing off items can be very rewarding. Back in the day when I was working at the secondary school, we had a big whiteboard in our office, and we used to list everything on there, and we used to break it down with who was going to do what, and it was it was a wonderful feeling being able to tick stuff off and allocating work to people and getting everything achieved and rubbing it off and going back to a clear board. And very much, of what we'll look at today in a minute is sort of electronic tools that we can use to get that same feeling and track our work. Because if you write things down and you break it out into chunks, I find that you can be a lot more productive. So if you are a Google Apps customer, and if you're watching this presentation, you're either a Google Apps customer or thinking of becoming a Google Apps customer, or you can even use all of these tools in the standard free Google services, Gmail, etc. If these are used correctly, a lot of the standard Google services can be used to manage your personal workload and help organize the workload of your team. Google Apps are designed to save you time and work more effectively and efficiently. As the old saying goes, work smarter, not harder. With that said, the first Google feature I use is Priority Inbox, which I know the Guru has some instructional videos on already, so we won't cover that in great detail. But if you enable and train Priority Inbox, you can start prioritizing your work by knowing that emails there should be looked at first. This is great if you're a one-person support team and are out of the office or in an extended meeting and come back to a full inbox. Working with my London colleagues, and when I travel to San Francisco, I always wait to find a full inbox. But with Priority Inbox, I already have a fair idea of what needs to be read and what I should be responding to first. The next most basic thing you should do is set up an email group for your IT support team. And you can call it whatever you want: IT at, support at, help desk at. Even if you are the only support person, get the people you are supporting used to emailing a group. rather than an individual's account, as when more support people are added, you can add them to the team. Also, having everyone in your team emailed about an issue can help widen the knowledge in your team and let others know about reported issues. This is handy so patterns can be seen. As a manager, I monitor our email group as it gives us visibility on requests coming in. I can see frequency of problems and highlight areas where maybe staff training or documentation needs to be improved. It also allows me to know if multiple users are reporting the same issue with a Gmail product or a Google product, and then I can either look at the Google App status to see if there's a reported issue, or I can raise a ticket with Google and get it resolved. But if every support agent was being emailed individually, you might not have that collective knowledge to be able to see that there's a pattern. You can also use Google Groups for Business. If you have this enabled, you can use forum-style groups and have your support personnel take ownership of requests and allocate them so that they own the problem. One thing I like to do is to make use of Google Forms for non-time sensitive items like group additions and removals, the creation of new staff and user accounts. These tasks are often more efficient if left to do in a batch, rather than going to groups in the admin control panel every time you get an email or IM request. Of course, tools like Better Cloud allow you to do many bulk actions like changes to user group membership, so that can save you time as well instead of using just the Google Apps admin panel. Another basic feature is the Google Keep, which is now embedded into Drive, and this can be used to create basic checklists which can help you remember what you need to do, and you can share this with other users. However, I don't really feel that this would scale well with a large number of users. And lastly, and I have a lot of these, is Google Calendar to remind myself to check invoices, do reports, and then do the deprovision of accounts at the correct time. So the basic Google apps might not fill all of your requirements. So this is when we start looking at third-party tools, and especially those in the Google Apps marketplace, as they will be specifically designed to integrate with your Google Apps domain. When I'm looking for new tools, here are some of the things that I like to check for. And the ones that are my priority ones are Google Apps OAuth login, two-step verification, whether it's using Google's own verification, or if it has its own built-in two-step verification process. Granular access controls, so that just on an administration side, you can have your other support staff maybe making changes to your account, but not the actual service. If there's administrative controls, some form of policy enforcement. And also speak to the company producing this app. Are they business focused? A lot of these products that I've seen seem to have started out as sort of consumer, sort of freelance devices or services, and now many of them are sort of touting and selling business or enterprise. And a lot of them are going back and adding the Google Apps authentication. And if you can speak to these people, find out what their roadmap is for product releases. What are they working on? See if there are any features that are important to you that you can get involved in doing some beta testing. Task management tools and people's preference is and can be and has been, because I've seen it online in many life hacker posts, an emotive subject. And you just have to do a quick Google search for the best to-do apps for 2015. And I don't know how big that number is because it's too large, but that might be 6 billion or 67 billion. That's an awful lot of research results, and it seems that every few weeks there's a new list coming out. So it's definitely a popular and emotive subject, and not every application is going to be right for you or right for your end users. But over the years, I've tested a few, enabled a few on our domain, and even done some limited trials by enabling them on an organizational unit, and then trialing them with some specific users to see how we might be able to integrate them. And in this presentation, I'm not going to go over, and we can't go over a comprehensive list as there's just far too many. and I don't really want it to become an in-depth product review or demonstration. But these are some of the most well-known and most written about ones, and they often appear in the top 5 or the top 10 list. So there's ToDoist.com, AnyDo.com, AnyDo, any.do, Wunderlist.com, and Evernote.com. And out of all of these, my personal favorite and the tool that I employ with my IT support engineer team in North America is ToDoist.com. And when evaluating all of these products, I find that they have very much similar features and options. Most of them are either multi-OS or they just work in your browser. And some of them have very detailed and extensive Chrome extensions, with some with direct integration into your Gmail. And all of them nowadays have mobile apps. Some of the features are only available in the premium or the business version, which will have a monthly or annual fee. But a lot of the key features are free. And this is just a screenshot from ToDoist and some of the functions that it has. So how do we utilize it? I like ToDoist because it has a very clean UI, and many of the useful features are available in the free product. I can use it as a personal task list to remind myself what needs to be done and set reminders, and I can also use it to set tasks for my team. Hang on a second, my screen is just taking a while to refresh. As you can see here, you can create separate what they call projects, and I've got different areas of our business, and then just a screenshot from the mobile app, and this allows me to assign work to my team, and also if they are using the same project for their own work to-do list, it allows me to see what they are working on, and really gives me sort of an overview of what's being happening, which is especially useful if they're a remote team. They might not be on site. One of the features that many people say they miss from Outlook is the ability to create tasks directly from their emails and set reminders. I know when we migrated our companies, the companies that we purchased out on the West Coast, they had come from an Exchange infrastructure with using Outlook, and that ability to quickly set reminders in Outlook was one of the things that they were missing. And I know there are other products that do this. One thing I like about ToDoist is that the Chrome extension adds a new button into Gmail. And as you can see with this example from an email from Dylan, if I click that button, I can create a simple task for myself. And I can set a reminder date, and I can put it in a separate calendar, and I'll get a notification on that day to do it, and I can just click to go back to that email that it's referring to. Also, from the extension, I can quickly and easily create tasks for my team. I can assign them to myself, and I can put them in different projects. Tasks can only be assigned to a single person in ToDoist, and you can set them by date, and you can set them to be recurring. A lot of this is available in the free version, and some of the additional features in the premium business is more complicated filtering controls, the ability to add comments to tasks, and have push notifications to your mobile devices. But if there are any changes to tasks, whether a new task is added or it's completed, you do get an extension notification and an email in the free version. So moving on from task management, next there's project management. And doing a quick search of some of the popular project or team management apps out at the moment, there's smartsheet.com, Trello, Slack.com, and a new one that I discovered recently, which is projects.tm, which I haven't had a lot of time to test really and experiment with, but I do hope to. Smartsheet, of course, Jim, the IT manager, did a presentation earlier today about administering third-party apps across your domain. So if you've watched that, you've already heard about Smartsheet. and if you've missed it, definitely make sure you catch up on that recording online, because he covered many of the things that I had mentioned previously about choosing a third-party app. So out of all of these apps, which I'll cover in a minute, I forgot my slide order. So project management. So now there's project management that we as IT managers do, and then there's Olympic level certificate earning corporate grade IT management. And project management has long been the source of many excellent Dilbert cartoons, like this one here. And if you've not seen the Dilbert animated cartoon series, search for it on YouTube for episode 1, where they hilariously cover the importance of a good name for your project or product. But moving on seriously, project management is still all about breaking down all the elements of what you are doing, like pushing out new software or making a systems change. Ensuring things are completed in the right order and allocating parts of that project to a person or persons. I think this is where task management differs, as projects usually involve a larger part of your team and team collaboration. And going on now, the tool that we utilize for this within my team in North America and my colleagues' team in London when we work together is Trello. What is Trello? Well, according to Trello themselves, they say that this is a free, flexible, and visual way to organize everything with anyone. You could drop the lengthy emails, sticky notes, and clunky software because everything's in the cloud. I like Trello because of its very simple interface. It works by having a series of lists, and in these lists you can create cards, and the cards are like your projects. And the lists allow you to organize things into stages, and that's what we do. So we have a to-do list, which is things that we know we need to do, and then we move things into what we call doing priority 2. This is where we might be actively working on projects, but it's not taking up all of our time, and it's sort of something on the back burner that is important, but doesn't have a fixed deadline, something that we need to do. And then we have doing priority 1, which are projects that we're working on and we're focusing most of our time on. And these are normally the business critical ones, the ones that we really do need to be actively working on and making sure we complete on time. And then the lovely column at the end is done. Once you've completed your project and all your tick boxes have been completed, we move it into there, and they can also be archived. So let's look at an example project. This is one that we did last year, something that affected all of our offices around the world, where we need to do a simple reconfiguration of all of the extensions in our telephone numbers. Originally, we started off with 3-digit telephone extensions, and then we went to 4-digit telephone extensions, and then globally, with all the numbers that we had, we were starting to get repetition. Or duplicated numbers. So we needed to go back through all of our phones and add a prefix to all of the extensions. And when we thought about this and we were talking about this seemed like a huge project. We had to touch so many different systems. We had to do so much reconfiguration. But just a very simple description of this project about what was needed to be done. And we could have, within here, we could have added a Google Doc. We could have added other attachments. And then just at the bottom, we had a checklist of offices that needed to have this fix applied to them. And then we were able to assign it to members of our team. And then those members of those teams, once they'd completed their task, were just able to untick it. So this seemingly huge project, once we'd broken it down into smaller chunks, was very easy and very manageable to do. So some final thoughts. At a recent Cloud IT Summit run by Better Cloud, the admins in attendance were polled, and the average IT person to user ratio was 1 in 85. But this varied from 70 to 100 for some of the companies. So many of you might be feeling very overstretched at times. I personally didn't get full-time assistance until we had 135 users in 2 countries. So I think I was possibly a little bit too efficient for too long. But the topic of this presentation was become a more efficient admin with smarter task scheduling. So what has been my secret sauce for getting these things done? Well, here are some of the things that I've put in place and learned over the years. First of all, I learned to stop playing whack-a-mole with IMs and IT requests. While you want to be seen as being available to staff you support, they can also be a huge distraction. When you need to think and work on something that's delicate, time sensitive, have the confidence to log out of Hangouts or go invisible or set your status to busy. Spend time on documentation and how-to videos. If you find you keep answering the same questions over and over again, spend the time to make a how-to document or video and direct yours to it, so that next time they have that problem, you know where to direct them. As the saying goes, give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Direct him to a how-to document and he will leave you alone forever. The next thing, create Google Forms for requests. Google Forms are a great way to collect requests in one place and either action them in one go or have many people work on them. Create checklists for tasks like processing levers so that other members of your team know what's being done and what they have to do. Work with HR on timely notifications. Finding out about new starters or contractors the day they arrive will mess up any schedule you had for that day. Work with HR on recruitment, ensure you know ahead of time when new starters are coming so that you can have their computers and accounts ready. Also make sure you know when people are leaving so that you can deprovision their accounts correctly at the right time. As mentioned before, do bulk actions in one go. If you have requests to change email group membership, unless you've enabled users to be able to manage their own group membership, every company is slightly different with that. Or if you're creating new user accounts, you can set aside a time once or twice a day or once a week to do these bulk actions. And with Google Forms now, you can make them very intuitive. You can add a lot of information. You can also make them the following questions dependent on the previous answers. So you can make sure you get a lot of information for your users for whether you're doing account creation or anything else, and do all of those actions in one go. Collect that information in a central place, and then you can, as I said, do bulk actions, do a task all in one go rather than constantly having to go back to the same control panel. Have confidence to work away from your desk. If you have a complicated task to do or need to concentrate on some research, find a place away from your desk to do it. An emergency will find you, but those drive-by annoyances at your desk won't. Delegate and trust, relinquish control, which is, as a learning IT manager over the years, that was the one thing that personally I had to learn to do, because I'm sure every IT admin has OCD levels of anxiety when it comes to control. However, you can't be an effective and efficient IT admin if you don't delegate tasks to others in your team. And I know previously there was sessions about administrator controls. So there's a lot of settings within third-party applications like Better Cloud or Lucidchart and Google Apps for Work that allow you to relinquish that control and delegate tasks. Manage your end user expectations. It is in our nature to respond to things as soon as they happened. But I have learned if you respond to every request instantly, people will expect an instant response every time, and that's just not feasible. So with a lot of things, I have learned to manage my end users' expectations, and even though a request might come in to do something, I won't do it instantly. I'll wait and do 5 of the same requests at the same time, so it doesn't interrupt my day. Otherwise, I'm just playing whack-a-mole like this poor kitty here with the fingers. And then my last, but my by no means least, and this is my personal favorite, learn to say no. Then maybe think about it a bit, and then say yes. And I think this goes back to managing end user expectations. In IT support, we can be so so focused on instantly responding and always saying yes that sometimes the answer does need to be no. It can be no to start with. Then think about it a bit, say maybe, work on, think about whatever the request is if it's not a normal process that you should be doing, and then finally say yes. So there we have it. That is my presentation. I hope people found that interesting. Do I need to give you back control, Dylan,
No, we're
or
gonna
have you
stay like
got?
this. So let's went pretty long there, but we should have time to do a couple questions. Hope you don't mind staying 5 or so minutes after the advertised time.
No, no, no. I'm fine.
Okay. Um, so